Ed Bernstein Show. Now, here's Ed.
Well, welcome to our show. Hey, it's my wonderful pleasure today to welcome Mayor Shelley Berkley.
Thank you,
wonderful.
Ed.
and a friend that I've known for, God, I hate to even think how many years.
1976 we met.
1976. 1976. And
we're still standing.
But let me ask you this. When we met in 1976, you were, a recent graduate of law school, taking the Nevada bar, had just moved back to Las Vegas, right? Did you ever think that we'd be sitting here close to 50 years later and you'd be the mayor?
Well, yes and no. I didn't know whether I'd be sitting here with you.
Right.
But I always wanted a life of public service. And I think, one of the reasons I went to law school was because back in those days, there were very few women in law school. So I thought, it would be easier to run for office and give me credibility if I was an attorney. So that was the primary motive of going to law school and coming back home. So I always knew I would have a life of public service, and I always wanted to be mayor of my hometown. So this to me is just everything that I've done in life has prepared me for this moment, and I'm just very excited about it.
You've always been like the #1 cheerleader for Las Vegas in any job that you've had, whether in the state, whether in Washington, or whether locally. But you bring up an interesting thing, because I do remember when you were in law school that there were very few women in law school. We had at that time maybe 1 or 2 female attorneys in Las Vegas.
There were 5 actually,
Okay.
and I could name them. I won't now, but yes, they were. There were about 5 or 6 women that were actually practicing law, and then there was an influx when I graduated. All of these were Jerry Schwartzer, all of the judges that the women that are now retiring from being judges. We were all coming back or coming to Las Vegas to practice, and so that was
the first wave.
First wave.
Yeah, but at that time, is far different than what's going on in law school today.
Oh yeah.
Because the majority of law school students are female.
Yes.
And I had always thought, I was trying to get your take on this. I'd always thought that as women got into law, and as they got into politics, that somehow politics would be kinder and gentler.
I have never experienced that.
Why do you think that is? I mean, it just seems that women have, that type of demeanor more than men, and you would think it would translate into politics. But it seems to me that oftentimes the politics becomes more corruptive of the person.
It's a very interesting observation, because that's what I grew up thinking that is exactly what would happen when there were more women in pivotal positions. What I discovered when I was in Congress is that simply wasn't the case, and party identification was more important than gender identification. And there was a time, and it was when I was there, and things were still working rather bipartisanly, if that's a word. The women would always get together and have one issue that they would turn into legislation, and all of us would support. So I went to the meeting after I got elected, and we were sitting there. We could not agree on the seminal issue for that session, and consequently we didn't have one. And that's when I realized, this isn't exactly what I expected. There was no great kumbaya moment. Perhaps it was before I got there, but I noticed by that time, not quite like it is now, but very, very partisan in nature. And the interesting thing is most of that was around reproductive rights.
And also, sometimes I think that women are more competitive with each other than men are.
I have found that to be the case. Look, as you know, I have so many women friends. I mean, I have a lifetime of friendships, and we're all very, very close and supportive of each other. But I don't think, as it turned out, in profession or in politics, that women behave too much very differently than the men do. And so it's, I also thought there would be big changes. My own experience, I haven't seen it. Although, look, I'm looking forward. There's a majority of women on the city council. I've gotten to know them during the campaign. Looking forward to working with all of them. We've been meeting, and a great group of women, and I'm looking forward to becoming part of that and getting things accomplished collectively for the people of the city of Las Vegas. But that tends to be not partisan. It tends to, let's get the job done. Right. And perhaps that's what appealed to me about the mayor's position.
When you won your race for Congress a number of years ago, you get to Washington, and they have like an orientation.
Yes.
Right, and here's how you do the job, basically. Right, if you get elected to a judgeship in Las Vegas, we have something called the Judicial College up in Reno, where you go and you learn, okay, here's what the job is and how I do it. What is the preparation for becoming mayor?
Oh, that's a very good question. My election isn't even certified by the city until this coming Friday. Starting next week is the onboarding process. So it's kind of like going to mayor's school. And luckily I'm a fast study, because December 4th I get sworn in as mayor. That doesn't give me a whole lot of time. But, I'll be meeting all of the department heads, getting intense briefings, and also, Carolyn is going to hand me the gavel on December 4th after I get sworn in. I run the December 4th meeting. And so that's, I'm sure I can handle it. I've done a lot of this over the years, but it is a little bit different. And it's different even, the majesty of Congress and working in that extraordinary building. But everything is so old. I mean, I'd be sitting on a chair and one of the legs gave out. And why? Because that chair was purchased when FDR was president, and they never get rid of it. But here, when I took my first tour of City Hall yesterday, oh my God, what a facility. It is absolutely beautiful. So it'll be a wonderful place to work, but it's very high-techy. I mean, it's got the best of everything. And what a difference between being mayor of Las Vegas and being the congresswoman from Las Vegas. Although I have to tell you, I've received a number of calls over the last few days from former colleagues in Congress, and each one said, oh, you were born to be mayor of Las Vegas. When you were serving, I knew that you should be mayor of Las Vegas. So I guess I'm fulfilling not only my dream, but the dream of a lot of my former colleagues as well.
And then when you get sworn in and get settled in your office, you're really taking office after a family has been there for 25 years.
Yes.
So I think for the last 25 years, I assumed that Oscar and Carolyn had similar styles and ways of doing things in that office. You're going to come in and have your own way of doing it. But everybody around City Hall is used to 25 years of the same way of doing things. So do you see that as a challenge?
I'm very confident in what I do, and I'm sure I'm quite prepared to do this. And look, you got to give credit where credit is due. 25 years of dedication to public service is very impressive. And you and I know the Goodmans very, very well, and they have worked very hard, and they're handing over a pretty good city. If you're going to be mayor of a city, wouldn't you rather be mayor of the city of Las Vegas than just about any other place on earth? So I'm very grateful to them for that. But there'll be a different style. Look, Oscar had his shtick, which was great for Oscar, with the showgirls and the martini glass, and it was perfect because it blended in with his personality. Carolyn had different. But of course, between the two of them, it was continuity, and it was the mayor's Goodman. It's going to be different, and I'll bring my own, my own personality, my own background, and my own knowledge of the issues to City Hall with me, and I'm sure it'll be a very, very smooth transition.
And they each had a different way of decorating their offices, right? And so have you given that any thought?
You know what? Right now, especially with the Badlands still hanging over the city, there's not a lot of money to spend. If the furniture in Carolyn's office is not falling apart, I'm just going to keep everything.
I wasn't talking about their furniture. I mean, you have a lot of memorabilia.
Yes, most of the mayor's office, as I recall from one time I was there, is all windows. So all of my memorabilia on the walls and everything else probably won't get on the walls. But you know what? We start our own memorabilia with the city.
What is the most important piece to you, most valuable piece to you of memorabilia that you've acquired all these years in your career?
Oh, my goodness gracious. A couple of things, one nationally and one locally. During the time I was in Congress, I spent time with the conservation people, and this was quite, there were mammoths here, and 12,000 years ago, it was not the city of Las Vegas, and I was presented with a mammoth tooth, and it's the size of Cleveland, and I just love that, and I've had it in every office that I've had, and I just love it. There's other things that I had when I was in Congress that are special to me, but Ed, it's been 12 years since I served. I have 74 unopened boxes that came back with me from D.C. that I haven't opened yet. They're in my garage. They're in the closets of in every closet that I have these boxes stored. And one of these days I'm going to look through them, and there might be some things that I want to have. But for me, it's personal items that meant something. Somebody gave this to me that it meant a lot that they did. And so those are the things I cherish the most.
Nice. So you mentioned Badlands.
I know.
Badlands is
it's a mess.
It's a mess. It's a piece of land. What is it? Tell our viewers. A reminder. Not all our viewers live and breathe this like you do every day.
I know, but unfortunately, whatever the decision is that the city council makes is going to impact every single taxpayer in the city of Las Vegas. There's a developer, and we're going back 9 years, a developer that purchased the Badlands Golf Course and had a master plan to build, and it was a combination of mixed use, big, beautiful 2-acre parcels, parks, 1-acre parcels, regular housing, condos, and it was zoned for residential. The developer bought the golf course based on the fact that it was zoned residential. There were a few citizens in our community that convinced the homeowners in Queensridge that they can stop it. The Queensridge, and I live in Queensridge, and I knew from the beginning that they were going down the wrong path. There was no reason why the developer shouldn't have been granted his permits. Now, the Planning Commission gave unanimous approval for his project, and the City Council at the time denied it. What they didn't take into account, because I would imagine most developers would just fold up the tent and go home, but they were dealing with one tough guy that knew he was in the right and had every right to build. And we have been fighting this. The city has been fighting this. He's been fighting the city for 9 years. The result was that there have been 5 lawsuits. The last one decided by a decision by the Supreme Court. all ruling in favor of the developer against the city. And the result of that is currently the city owes the developer approximately $248 million for an illegal taking of his property. He will continue to fight this, and what I don't want to see is it go from 248 to $500 million, and that is entirely possible. And so I am looking forward to rolling up my sleeves, get this resolved, because it could have dire financial consequences for the city. And we are in a growth mode. The last thing we need to do is be doing hiring freezes, which we're doing now, and telling everybody don't purchase anything. All of the city directors, don't purchase anything, don't buy anything, don't do anything. We're in a hiring freeze, and we're in a budget freeze. And they're also selling off property that is owned by the city, including Cashman. It's going to auction in order to satisfy this judgment. It was a bad situation. And let me add insult to injury to me. Since we live in Queensridge, the Queensridge Homeowners Association, who I think were misled terribly about this, spent a considerable amount of money hiring attorneys to stop the developer from developing the property. Because of that, there's, my homeowners association fees are going up now because there's so much deferred maintenance with Queensridge. So this has been bad for the city. It's bad for the residents of Queensridge, and we need to get this done so we can move forward. I'm not suggesting it's easy, and it's going to be painful, and it hurts, especially when you weren't part of the decision making. Now you're on the city council, and you're being asked to sign off on an agreement that's going to give the developer upward of $250 million plus. And that's not an easy thing for any elected official to do. But I'm telling you, if we don't do this, instead of the city of Las Vegas, it's going to be the city of Johan. And I think we need to move on this, get it behind us. We'll take our hits, apologize. I think the developer is owed an apology, and then just put it behind us and move forward. This too will pass, but it's not going to pass until this is done.
How big a number is the $250 million compared to the city's budget?
It's a substantial hit, and that's why they're selling their property.
I mean, they don't have $250 million
not
sitting
lying
in
around.
accounts, right?
And, I think, and again, until I'm in office, there's only one mayor at a time.
Yeah.
But I'm very anxious to sit down with the city attorney and have a frank conversation. But perhaps this. The agreement can be paying the developer over a few years to blunt the pain. And I'm hoping that he's going to be reasonable, although frankly I don't think he's got much reason to be reasonable, and the city has to compromise as well. We're at that point. Just got to get done. It's not going to get better. And if the city council or the city attorney is waiting for a court somewhere to magically overturn this, I just don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, what seems unfair to me is that oftentimes, and sometimes this works just a benefit of a new administration coming in, but what you're left with is what the previous administration has done. You see this in national politics as well as local politics. So now you're facing this huge problem that it's not your responsibility at all in the beginning, but it is now your responsibility to figure out a way out of it. Part of that way out, I assume, is going to be, hey, we need to tighten belts somewhere, right? And that's not going to be good for your administration.
Look, my daughter-in-law is an employee of Metro. She heads the DNA. If you've ever seen the show CSI, she's CSI. I mean, she heads the DNA department, and she's received a memo. Don't buy anything. Don't hire anybody. Don't fill any open positions. That is not good for a city that is growing. But that's the reality of it. You can't spend money you don't have. So you figure out, look, it's going to be, I would imagine we'd have to take care of and make sure that the Metro and our firefighters, we talk about, public safety. That's public safety. We have to protect the public. That should be what we look at first, to make sure that they are funded and can do the job that we have tasked them with, which is public safety, and then start examining all of the other departments. This is not what I had hoped for, but it's what it is. And if anything, I'm a realist. Get this done, get this off the table, and let's move forward as a city. We've got a great future. It's just this is a glitch that all of us could have done without.
Well, it looks like you may be the right mayor at the right time.
I believe that I'm rather dispassionate about this. It's not a matter of who did what to whom and whose feelings were hurt, and it's just do it.
Look, I've said this before. You have such incredible experience in your past, whether working in education, whether working in casinos, whether working in the state legislature, Congress, medical schools. It needs somebody with that kind of background and experience to figure the way out of this, So I'm happy you're our mayor.
Well, thank you very much. So am I. I feel very good about this.
And it's nonpartisan at the same time.
I love that. That to me, I think your viewers know that we're very good friends in real life, but one of the things that appealed to me most about this position was its nonpartisan nature. And even one of my commercials during the campaign, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat, if you need your pothole fixed, you want your damn pothole fixed, right. And I'm good at that.
Get out there and put that tar in there, right? Get that blacktop going.
Well, I've done worse in my time, so yeah.
So the swearing in is December the 4th.
December 4th, yes.
What a celebration. I'm sure you're looking forward to that.
Well, the night before, December 3rd, I'm going to take taking the family out for a celebratory dinner. They have been with... when I first ran for the Nevada State Assembly in 1982, I was pregnant with my son, Max. So my family has been with me in all the offices that I've run for, and very, very supportive. So I think we're going to do a little family celebratory dinner the night before. On December 4th at 8 o'clock in the morning, there'll be a continental breakfast at City Hall. 9 o'clock is the swearing in. And then I believe the protocol is that the current mayor will hand me the gavel, and she will depart to abundant applause, and I will go up to the dais and sit down and start the meeting. So I don't know which one of us will be more relieved. Probably Carolyn. And so that's what the plan is. And then that night, the Nevada School of the Arts, December 4th, Larry said, well, what are we going to do that night? And I said, well, the Nevada School of the Arts is having their gala. I was their honoree last year, and so I think it's only appropriate that I show up for the next gala, and I'm very supportive of their endeavors as well, and they're located downtown.
That's great. Look, in addition to the lawsuit that we talked about, when I think of some of the challenges facing the city, my thoughts always come to downtown.
Yeah.
And we've talked before about this, about the homelessness in downtown, but I'm also concerned about something else. I'm also concerned about all the offices moving out of downtown. It seems like everybody wants to work remote, everybody is moving out to the suburbs, and there was a time I would drive down, come to my office is right in the middle of downtown.
Yes, it sure is.
And I drive down 4th Street, and I'd have traffic all the way down 4th Street. Today I drive down 4th Street, and there's maybe, I can see a mile down the road, there's 1 or 2 cars on the street. I mean, it's a big difference. There's a lot of businesses, particularly lawyers, accountants, banks, professional people that are moving away from downtown. Is that an issue that you think you'll be looking into?
Well, I know most of the developers that are developing downtown, and I joke, but I went to most of their bar mitzvahs, and they really are imagining downtown Las Vegas. So I think it's taking on a life of its own, maybe different from what you and I remember, where it was law firm after law firm
Right.
after law firm. But I think the future of Las Vegas is very rosy. Next 10 years, and I've said this for the last year and a half, they're going to be explosive. This is where jobs are being produced, service jobs, building trades jobs. People are going to be pouring into town. We need to be prepared for that occurring, because it is. I mean, there's no stopping it. And, we have challenges with water and other issues, density issues, and Las Vegas proper is landlocked. So where do we go from here? Where do we grow from here? How do we accommodate the people that are coming in that need affordable housing? Our transportation system has got to be upgraded because it's growing like crazy. When Las Vegas was first created, the city fathers, and they were all fathers at the time, I mean, the most ambitious predictions was that Las Vegas would have a population of 400,000 people. And that was for the whole Las Vegas Valley, by the way.
Right.
Now we're at 2.5 million and growing in the same geographic area. And so there's a lot of things going on. It needs to be managed appropriately. I think I can do that. And it's going to be, it may not be the city I grew up in 10 years from now, but it'll certainly be a strong, vibrant city that people are going to want to come to, not only as a tourist destination, but people are going to want to live here. That means we're going to have to, our school system is going to have to be improved, access to affordable health care. These are issues that are going to be front and center over the next decade. But I'll say this, and I've said this a lot, I would rather be the mayor of a city that is dealing with challenges that are growth related, than a mayor that's dealing with a constricting city where you're losing population and you're losing your tax base. And so while we do have serious challenges, they're a lot easier to deal with than if people are fleeing from your city,
Right.
and your tax base is disappearing in front of your eyes. So we'll be fine. I'm sure of it. Better than fine.
Thank you very much, Mayor Shelley Berkley.
Are we done?
We're done.
How is that possible?
We're done.
Eddie, always a pleasure.